Planning Commission to order, please. Ms. Allison, would you please call the roll?
Banks,
Present.
Banks,
I'm here.
Velasco,
Here.
Chambers,
Here.
Dietz,
Here.
Foster,
Here.
Phillips,
Here.
Wallace,
Here.
White, Chairman Clifton.
Here. Great. It's good to have a full commission again for a change. We've been informed that Mr. Spencer has had a death in his family. His mother has passed away. And also this week, a longtime member of the Planning Commission and friend, Jim Butler, has passed away. So if you would, I wish you would join me in a moment of silent prayer for both of these people. Thank you. We'll go to the approval of our minutes. You have been submitted a copy of the minutes of our previous meeting. Is there any corrections or additions to the minutes of the meeting as presented?
Move for approval. Second.
Motion made and seconded. The minutes be approved as submitted. Please call the roll.
Sorry.
Banks,
Yes.
Velasco,
Yes. Yes.
Chambers,
Yes.
Dietz,
Yes.
Foster,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Chairman Clifton.
Yes, the minutes were approved as submitted. Thank you. We'll move on into the Planning Commission items. Our first item today is subdivision 2022-9. Mr. Don Chambers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Development Review Committee met and considered item SD 2022-9, Windsong Church of Christ, Lot 1, preliminary plat and site plan review of a building addition at 3 Windsong Drive. The applicant was present, agreed to items 1 through 10 in subsections, and the Development Review Committee recommends approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. This application be approved as submitted. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this application? Any comments from any other commissioners on this application? Okay, all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, thank you. Lane, can we do these by Zoom? Elaine? Can we do these, the subdivisions by application by roll call, or do we need voice vote? Okay. Item number 2, subdivision 2022-10, Mr. Chambers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Development Review Committee met and considered item SD 2022-10, John L. Baldwin Edition, Lot 7R and 9R, a replat at the northeast corner of East Broadway and Redwood. The applicant was present, agreed to items 1 through 8 and subsections, and the Development Review Committee recommends approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded that this application be approved as submitted. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on the application? Are there any comments from any of the commissioners? All in favor of the application? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item number 3 is rezone case number 2022-6 to rezone from C3 to R2 to allow for a single-family house at 1516 North Popular Street. Is the applicant here? Yes, come up, please, and give us your name.
Hi, I'm Stacy Medlock with Remax, and I'm doing this for my client, Chris Baker. He's a builder. He's bought this lot and wants to build a brand-new house on this property. Not sure why it's commercial. Maybe back years ago, there was a different plan for the city or what have you, but it's, as you can tell, it's a very narrow lot in between residential homes. So he
Okay.
just wants to build a brand-new house.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
They're wanting to rezone from a commercial C3 back to an R2 to allow for a single-family house. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this application? Yes, ma'am, please come up and give us your name.
Good evening. My name is Glenda McClinton, and I'm a homeowner on East 16th Street here in North Little Rock. And I think I talked with Miss, I can't remember. I talked with her, and I was trying to find out how will that affect us by rezoning it to just for residential, because I was always told that it was part residential and commercial zoning. And at one time, I had a daycare there, and different people had businesses there. So I just want to know if rezoning it only to residential will affect us on East 16th Street or what?
Okay. Mr. Tim, is
Most of it is commercial.
the rest of it around there commercial, still C3?
Yes, this is only for this specific lot that's going from C3 to R2. No other lots are involved in this at all.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Any other comments from anyone in the audience? Any comments from any of the commissioners? On the application, please call the roll.
Banks,
Yes.
Belasco,
Yes.
Chambers,
Yes.
Dietz,
Yes.
Foster,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Chairman Clifton.
Yes, your application did pass. See Mr. Spencer, Mr. Rivas, and he can tell you what to do next. Thank you. Next item is our public hearing, number 2022-26, for the River Rock Estates lots 1 through 26 to allow a hillside cut for a residential subdivision in the northwest corner of River Road in Paul Dukes Drive. Is there anyone that would like to speak on this or speak in this public hearing? Yes, sir. Give us your name, please.
I'm Jess Griffin, applicant, engineer for the project, and we're just happy to work with y'all, and we'll answer any questions or anything that you might have on this.
Okay, Tim, has there been any communication from the city engineer's office on this?
They have received the preliminary geotech report, and for comment on that report, they're here today and
Okay.
could say something about it.
Okay,
I'll add that as part of this, the applicant notified property owners around here about the public hearing.
okay, good. Okay, step back if you would, please.
Ask him a question.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, hold it just a minute.
You know, I read through Carl's, Mr. Garner's, report here. I'm not up to all of his terminology here on these soils, but did he find anything would be adversely affecting the development as proposed?
No, he found that there was a sandstone formation. It had all been mined out of there, and then what was left is this shale. And from what he could see and what we could see from the open cut along the road is that the veins of the shale were in a favorable direction to
Right.
where when we
They
cut it.
slope back and away from, yeah, from the
Right.
embankment,
And
okay.
So when we're cutting anything along that north side there, the way that the property slopes and the lots are facing, it's going to be favorable in how we cut that and work with that.
Okay. And I guess, you know, in the public hearing, as it's listed here, it talks about to allow a hillside cut for residential development. I guess everybody should assume that's a hillside cut development in accordance with our ordinance. I'm sure you're going to do that, but I just want to make sure that everybody is understanding of that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chambers?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Was there any research or analysis done to consider alternative ways of developing the property that didn't have quite as much cut and fill, otherwise known as, I guess, environmental damage to the site? I know there are several modern ways of developing a property like this that are a little more economical than what is proposed.
We have looked at that, and we looked at 3 or 4 different configurations of how to do it. One thing good about this is that when we cut into that shale, it is good for the road beds and the select fill but beneath the roads in the road section. So it will be a useful thing that we won't be hauling any on-site select fill. We'll have select fill on site to help build the roads, and we'll have a better product because of that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cook?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, Mr. White?
Hey, Spencer, is this the one that I called you on where the man's backyard was caving in?
Maybe Mr.
And
Cook can tell us.
Out and stopped. Well, and he stopped the hillside cut and then brought it to the attention of the city.
Just a minute, Mr. White, let me get Mr. Cook with the engineer's office up here and we can ask him. Mr. Rivas?
Hey, Steve, this is Tim. The place you had called me about a month or so, or 2 months ago or so, that was way far north of here. This is not the same site.
Okay, that's all I needed to know. I'm all good. Thank you, Tim. I just want to make sure it wasn't that, because that didn't look well.
Okay, this is Mr. David Cook with the city engineer's office, and I assume you've studied this report?
Yes, we have received it. We're still reviewing it right now, but, I mean, as Jess said, the report pretty much showed it was an old borrow pit area that, who knows when, but they are following the hillside cut ordinance so far. I mean, they've mailed out all the letters, they've given us the initial report, and just like any other subdivision, especially with the hillside cut, we'll still review the street and drainage plans along with the grading plan before, because that whole building permit goes through us, I guess. Once we approve everything, the drainage, streets, and the grading plan, we'll approve them to start moving dirt.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chambers?
Yes, Mr. Cook, the property is being developed under a small lot provision of our ordinance, and I can only imagine it's going to be the standard, we have lots for sale, come by a lot. The developer may have complied with the slope ordinance. Who will assure that on a lot-by-lot basis that the individual lot developers will also comply with the hillside cut ordinance and not create dangerous situations.
Right. We're currently, I mean, engineering and planning have been working together in the past to ensure that, especially if, whenever an applicant goes for a permit on the lot, they'll be asked if there's going to be a greater than a 5-foot retaining wall, or is there another question y'all ask them, and then that goes to us for review?
And just so the whole process is clear, before the plat is signed for the whole subdivision, we're gonna ask for a letter from city engineer that says the applicant has met and complied with the hillside cut ordinance. Okay, that's to sign the plat. And then, whenever builders come in to build a house on an individual lot, we're gonna have that plot plan. And then, one of the questions that we're gonna ask them is, are you building a retaining wall? And then, that's when.
It'll kick back to us, and we'll review it again and have to talk with the individual builder.
Let me ask a question first, and then you certainly can. At the time that they review and come back with the letter, will that letter have a recommendation, yes or no, for us to review?
This will be the last time y'all see this.
Yes, I know, but they will issue a report.
There'll be a final report.
Correct. The final geotech report will go along with all the street and drainage plans, the civil plans that we'll review to ensure that it meets the city standards.
Okay.
And then we'll write that to y'all to sign the plat.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Mr. Foster?
Tim, I understand what you're saying about, if an applicant comes in, you're gonna ask him the questions, but is that a requirement for that kind of a development for this to happen? In other words, I'm saying, y'all work great together, but both of you could win the lottery tomorrow, and you'd say goodbye to us, and we don't know what's gonna happen after that. I mean, is there some documentation in their file that pertains to these particular lots that would, document the protocol for this development?
Yeah. Our process isn't dependent on a particular staff person.
Okay.
It's our standard.
Okay.
To sign the plat procedures.
Okay, good.
It's written in ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chambers?
Yes, sir. We all know that construction goes exactly as planned from the very first day, and that a homeowner probably says, I want this floor plan, and halfway through, since they can't really read plans, but they get onto their property and go, wow, this is really nice. I think I want this to stick out over here a little bit more, and I want this way, and I want this way. And I'd like to change the footprint to accommodate that, and it will require the retaining wall be an extra 8 feet tall for that to happen. And I'm sure that they will come back to staff and ask if that wall can be not 5 feet, but 13. I'm certain that will happen, okay? He said, tongue in cheek.
Well, I understand.
A lot of times things happen like that, and it's more a matter of coming back later and saying, will you forgive me for building this wall, as opposed to coming back and we tell them, no, you cannot have a 13-foot retaining wall in that location. So that's my concern, because things happen during construction, and this gentleman wants to speak, and we've taken a lot of time.
Yes, come forward and give us your name, please.
I'm Josh Ferguson. I'm one of the developers. We intend to, well, let me start with your first question. We have looked at several options on how to lay this out. It is a hillside. It's going to eliminate having driveways all the way down River Road, being able to lay it out this way, one thing. So that's going to make it a lot prettier. This is going to be a very high-end neighborhood. It's going to have very strict covenants and restrictions, and we intend on all of the property being build ready, pad ready. They don't have to come in and move dirt and do any cutting themselves. And in the covenants and restrictions, we will also make sure we lay out any guidelines to that nature, so they cannot break those codes. And also, we can give you bill of assurance, letting you know that we're going to follow all these standards. But this is going to be a very, very, very nice subdivision. We're not looking to just throw in a few small houses. They're gonna be really nice, gated community. And I understand your concern, but I do intend on it being build-ready when they come in.
Okay. All right,
Mr.
thank
Chairman,
you.
this
Mr. White?
is Steve White. I have a question for the city attorney.
Yes.
My question is, when residential areas are built and we have the covenants and we have the building insurance and we have all that, like in Lakewood or in Indian Hills or whatever, what I'm told is when it's time to enforce those, it's the code enforcement of North Little Rock that has to enforce that, which they don't enforce. So who enforces? Okay, so who does enforce it is where I'm going with this.
Well, code enforcement deals with city ordinances. Anything that deals with the bill of assurance or anything for a particular residential neighborhood. I mean, you know, I'm on the Lakewood Property Owners Association board, and we deal with stuff like that. You can always take it to some entity like that, but your problem is going to be enforcement. I mean, it's a problem, I know, but I don't think that city code is going to be responsible for something like you just asked. Who has said that city code is supposed to be enforcing that?
That's what I've always been told.
Okay.
But again, I could be wrong. It sounds like I am wrong on that, but the point is, and you're a great example, you're on the board at Lakewood, we have no enforcement.
Exactly.
And so what the question is and I can't see him, so I'm going to call him, the young man that was up there just said we have all these codes and all these rules and stuff. My question is, who enforces those rules?
The individuals.
The developer's talking, Steve, just a second. He's saying something, Steve, hang on.
I thought he was asking about
Okay,
the covenants and restrictions rules. So that would be the committee that's put together that, what is it called? The
Property
POA.
Owners Association.
Yeah, Property Owners Association, yes.
Steve, did you hear him?
Okay, and yes, I heard him, but my question still goes a little bit further than that. It's the association, and your own association at Lakewood. So is the association going to enforce this? Because a lot of the association, number one, they don't have the money to enforce it. The contractors don't. It's 25 years from now, and there is no enforcement. And I'm not being critical of Lakewood or Indian Hills, but it's just like in Lakewood and Indian Hills. We have covenants, and Charlie Foster used to have part of that, I believe, but there is really no enforcement of those covenants by the board of these different associations. So that's what, when the young man brought up that, hey, the ID board or whatever, the improvement district, they're going to enforce it. My question is, how are you going to enforce it 20 years from now or 15?
Gotcha.
Steve, hey, this is Charlie Foster. You know, I've been on several of these POA boards, and I understand what you're talking about because I've lived through some of those controversies. But basically, the enforcement, when you get in that situation, is by individual property owners. If they see another property owner violating those restricted covenants, he goes down to the courthouse and files a complaint and goes to the judge, you know, or it gets resolved otherwise. But I mean, individual property owners, and ones I've been involved with, have that right to file a, lawsuit or whatever against the person who's violating those restricted covenants, even 30 years down the road.
Charlie, I understand that, but unless it affects that particular property owner, there's no enforcement by the board.
Well, that's true.
And they can't afford it by the attorney, So it's strictly my answer to the question is what you said, Charlie. If it affects my neighbor next door, that's who's going to enforce it. But if it doesn't affect my neighbor next door, there technically is no enforcement. And as well, y'all well know, all the years I've been on the board, my biggest concern is we come up with all these rules, but there's no enforcement. And that's what I'm asking here, since the young man brought up there would be enforcement, but there technically won't be. And I was just bringing that up with Mr. Chambers' concern about 10 years or 15 years from now. And so that's my concern on the hillside cuts, on what happens, like Mr. Chambers said. So anyway, that's just my comment.
Hey, Steve, another option that I've been involved with in Florida, they put aside part of your association or POA dues, into a legal fund. And so when a owner comes before the board, basically the Property Owner Association Board, and draws a suit, they draw upon that legal fund to file suit against the person who's violating those. So, I've seen that done, set up, and I don't know if the gentleman in this case has set up anything like that in his covenants and restrictions, but I've just seen that been done.
Hillside cut proposal.
Yes.
Voting yes or no to accept the hillside cut proposal. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Did everybody understand that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, on this, please call the roll.
Banks,
Yes.
Belasco,
Yes.
Chambers,
No.
Dietz,
No.
Foster,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Wallace,
Yes.
White,
No.
Chairman Clifton,
Yes.
7.
Okay, this did pass, so at this point, I guess you would proceed to do your paperwork and get to the city planning office.
Does this need to go to the city council?
I don't think so yet until it gets to,
Okay,
after the review.
the preliminary plat, she
It's all
said.
part
That's
of
what I
the
was
plat.
thinking.
It's not a council issue.
Okay, thank you. Next order of business is number 5, 2022-7, to amend the land use plan from open lands to single family and to rezone from R3 to RU to allow for a single family residential subdivision on the northwest corner of River Road and Paul Dukes Drive. Is the applicant here?
Jess Griffin, engineer for the project. Really, there's just 4 or 5 lots that triggered having to do this. Every other lot was fitting the deal. So we're not trying to change every lot or every code from what was originally zoned. We just had a few lots that wouldn't fit it. And so we looked at the code, and I studied it really closely with Tim, and this is what we came up with, and we thought this would be the best way to proceed. We're just happy to get this project going, and I'll answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Tim, is this the best advice from the planning to go at it this way?
At the north part of the subdivision off of Riverview Court, if you have your packet in front of you, there's a few lots up there that aren't wide enough for the, if they were to leave it at R3. And so, to make it, and I don't want to take words out of your mouth or put words in your mouth, but to make the project economical, they needed to have these extra lots up on Riverview Court. And so this is the zoning category that kind of made the most sense. The zoning across Paul Dukes is C6, and the C6 and RU share some similarities in terms of lot size. And so planning staff felt that there was some compatibility there with the C6 being across the street.
Okay. All right.
And another note, Jess hit on it, but only a couple of the lots out of the 24, 25 of them are going to be this smaller size. The others are proposed to be the larger size.
So those are the lots that are gonna be the R2 zone pretty much, or?
They're gonna-
All is gonna be R2, but those are
They're going to
the
be
ones that fall-
zoned RU,
Okay,
but the proposal on the plat, their minimum size would be acceptable in other zones.
right.
Okay. All right, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this rezoning? Any comments from any of the commissioners? Mr. Chambers?
Yes, sir. This is just the same subdivision of land pattern we've seen since the 60s and 70s. Just using tinier lots, which will increase the difficulty in terms of slopes and developments and things like that. I just think there's a better way to develop the property than what's going forward.
Any other comments from any of the commissioners? On the application, please call the roll.
Did we ask for comments from the audience? I'm sorry, we did. Okay,
Yeah.
all right, just checking.
Banks? Sorry, Banks? Velasco?
Yes.
Chambers?
No.
Dietz?
Yes.
Foster?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Wallace?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Chairman Clifton?
Yes. Your application did pass. See Mr. Rivas, and he can tell you where to go next. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is subdivision 2022-3. Mr. Chambers?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Development Review Committee met to consider item SD 2022-3, River Rock Estates lots 1 through 26, preliminary plat of a residential subdivision at the northwest corner of River Road and Paul Duke Drive. The applicant was present, agreed to items 1 through 14 in subsections, and the Development Review Committee recommended approval. I did not.
Second. Sorry.
Motion made and seconded. The application be approved as submitted. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this application? Any comments from any of the commissioners? On the application, please call the roll.
Banks?
Yes.
Velasco?
Yes.
Chambers?
No.
Dietz?
Yes.
Foster?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Wallace?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Chairman Clifton?
Yes. Application did pass. See Mr. Rivas, and he can tell you where to go next. Also, we have a new member of the staff joining us today. Ms. Allison, introduce him to us, please.
We have Bo Cooper, our office assistant from planning.
Welcome.
Welcome, and we encourage you to jump in feet first. Any other comments? All in favor?
Move to adjourn.
Motion made.
Second.
Seconded. We adjourn. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here today.